Let's talk today about counter offers. In recent months, there's been a huge spike in counter offers across disciplines and across industries. And certainly, on the face of it, it makes sense that organizations would rather try to retain top talent than lose them, especially with the insecurity in the market at the moment. And if you have any insight into the research that's been done, you would know that even at a junior level, it costs about 3 times annual salary to bring new talent on board. And when you get to the senior and executive levels, it goes up to about 15 times of annual salary. So it's expensive to bring new hires on board. And therefore, if you can, with some increment, retain someone through a counter offer, that seems to make a lot more financial sense, let alone business sense, in terms of these being your people who would help to take the organization forward, especially in the insecurity that's in the market at the moment. However, if you dig a little bit deeper, both from a career seeker perspective as well as from the hiring authority perspective, counter offers really don't work. When I started out in recruitment almost 20 years back, some of the first training we got was on counter offers. And at that time, the statistics showed that 96% of people who accept counter offers actually end up leaving the organization within 6 months in any case. And I thought there is no way this could be the truth. But I've observed it over the years. In my own recruitment career, I've only had to deal with it about 2 or 3 times, but I've also seen it with colleagues of mine and with associates in the industry. And I can tell you now, I have not seen one single case where someone accepted a counter offer and stayed beyond 6 months. Reason for that being that by the time someone gets to the point where they have put their CV out there, gone to market, gone through a whole interview process, seen what's out there, have found things that are attractive to them in another organization and new challenges and other things that they're going to be doing that looks different to their current, it's about much more than just money or just a difficult manager or just one aspect. They have also gone through an entire long psychological process that's brought them to the place where the fear of change and the insecurity of going somewhere new is less and more attractive for them to go elsewhere than to stay where they currently are. So by the time you make them a counter offer, they've actually already exited in their own minds from this organization and they can see themselves working somewhere else. Now you make them a counter offer, and Monday morning, they need to be back here with the same managers, the same set of circumstances. Yeah, they might be earning a little bit more and they might have a promise of a nice career path going forward. But really, fundamentally, nothing has changed that much. And they generally end up being very, very disappointed, finding that, sure, everything they were looking forward to now, nothing has changed. Everything still looks the same. And that's why these individuals are back in the market almost immediately. And the sad thing is then if we flip it over to a candidate side, that many times that same opportunity is obviously not available anymore. And they then start falling around because now they're desperate to leave and they just look at anything that's available rather than waiting for the right opportunity. And one of the counter offers that I have had to deal with in my career was exactly that. This guy had a wonderful, steady career track record, wonderful growth in his career, just excellent. Up to that point, he accepted a counter offer. And when I saw his CV again 2 or 3 years later, he just started falling around one job after the other, and he just could not find that stability again. And he was not very happy in what he's done. And of course, because of the short stints then, he never grew up to the managerial level roles he should have, because he only then did little bits of work here, little bits of work there, instead of really growing into a level of weightiness and seniority that could get him into senior management roles in organizations. So it really did not work out well for him, nor does it for anyone else. I've also just in this last week heard a story of a senior manager in an organization who accepted the counter offer made to him by the company. And as soon as he accepted it, the company went out to the headhunter they normally work with, asked them to find a replacement for him. They went through the whole process because they've bought themselves some time now. And when they found his replacement, they let him go. So now he sat without the position he would have taken up to leave them, and he sat without his current job, out on the street, in this current market, because he accepted a counter offer, but the company knew that he's a flight risk, and so they mitigated their risk, but he then ended up paying the price for that. Now, that is a very extreme example, but it could happen. So big risk there as a candidate also to accept a counter offer. And remember also, if we look at it from the candidate perspective, very rarely money is the only reason that you are out in the market looking for something new. And if it is, and you are trying to play the counter offer game to get an increase in salary, well, that's a dangerous game to play. Because if you're going to need to put in a resignation every time you want an increase in salary, well, that's a risk, and it really cannot, it's not sustainable over the long term for you. And secondly, again, you have broken trust. So you must remember that when promotions come up and opportunities come up, they're not going to promote you. They're going to look for someone else that they feel more confident is going to stay with the company. So not a good idea to play the counteroffer game if you want an increase on salary. Rather go and have an honest discussion and see what can be done for you. Apart from the money component that most of the time form part of a counter offer, of course, there are other things, the emotional, you can call it blackmail, or the emotional pressure that's being put on you is often difficult to handle, because now suddenly senior management and executives are in your office every day telling you how you are so valuable to the organization. They don't want to lose you. They're going to create a big career path for you. And that can be quite difficult to stand up in a place where you've had good relationships and still say no. So you're going to need to steel yourself for those kind of discussions. You know, I've had it where really senior management came in and put such pressure on an individual pertaining to her lifestyle and people in her family and what opportunities they could create for that individual to try and retain her, that it was very, very difficult for her in the end to say, look, I am really going to stay with my decision to go with the new organization, which she did in the end. But there was a while there where she really felt like she betrayed and stole an opportunity from a family member because she didn't give in to the counter offer that was offered to her in that way, through really emotional blackmail. Clever for the executive who did that, but in the end, it did not work out. And she's very, very happy in the new organization. She's already been promoted in the new organization. So again, for her, it was not a wrong decision to make that. You know, the other thing that you must just keep in mind is that no company is going to change their entire way of promotion, their entire structure, just to accommodate you, one single individual, even in small companies and in big companies. None of us are just that special. You know, even if you're a real good A player, they're not going to change everything just for you. So even if those promises are being made, they might maybe follow through with the first step of it. But then after that, you're still going to find yourself back at the drawing board with the same set of circumstances. So don't do it to yourself, and don't do it to your employer to accept a counter offer. It is much better that once things have gotten to that place where someone feels they need to resign and go somewhere else, to part ways amicably, both from company and candidate perspective. And should there be an opportunity in a year from there or 2 years from there to work together again and maybe come together again and keep on growing together, much better to then do it on a clean slate with the trust not being broken and everyone knowing where the lines are drawn and that you do want to work together going forward. So there are better ways to handle it, but certainly to accept counter offers, huge risk. To make them, huge risk. So don't go down that line.